Thank you so much for allowing me to speak at the conference. It's an absolute pleasure. And the remarks made previously were quite riveting. It's just so great to be here, and it's fantastic to know that IDEA are doing such fantastic work in the area of global citizenship, which I think is needed now more than ever, which I hope to delve a bit deeper into in my opening remarks. Firstly, I want to start by saying I earnestly believe we're living at a time of we're living in revolutionary times when it comes to the cultural attitudes of people towards societal issues. And I think these revolutionary cultural attitudes are particularly embodied by today's young people. And I think we've seen this over the past year or so. The past year is undeniably a testament to that. There's a plethora of different social issues that currently confront us, be it global poverty, the mistreatment of human beings due to immutable characteristics that they possess, which are out of their control, endless wars that are cutting life short before it gets the chance to blossom, poverty, corruption. This list is far from exhaustive. Many of us have a feeling of disdain when it comes to this reality of flagrant suffering and agony for a significant portion of humans within the world, notwithstanding, as was mentioned by the prior speaker and the previous speaker, the forthcoming impacts of climate change, which is something that I think is instilling and bestowing a deep sense of angst and fear, and injecting a deep sense of fear into a lot of young people. I think for some of us, this reality presents, it's bittersweet, this reality of pain and suffering. Bitter in the sense that the likes of the people here at this conference have to confront these issues on a day-to-day basis and consider how they can bring about a fruitful and sustainable holistic change for those who are victims of these social problems. This can lead to a lot of consequences for the people that want to confront these issues, because you have to, take on the onus, the burden, the responsibility of shouldering all that comes with facing the agony and misery out there in the world for those who are less fortunate. But I think it's sweet in a sense also, because you see yourself playing your part in bettering the world for those who are less fortunate. And I honestly believe there is no greater spiritual dividend than confronting issues on behalf of those who do not have the privilege to be able to stand up and do so in a forthright way as we do. So I think there's something very sweet about it also. I think moving on that, at the time we live in right now with all the social problems that exist, why I think it's a very pivotal revolutionary time is for two reasons. Number one, because of the state of the moral zeitgeist, as it's called. Martin Luther King Jr. has a quote that says the arc of history slowly tilts towards justice. And I think right now, as we can see from the activities of a lot of young people and a lot of people generally, to address the problems that exist in the world, vis-a-vis the Black Lives Matter movement, vis-a-vis the Fridays for Future movement, the arc of morality that its current state right now, I think it embodies, it implores all of us to want to stand up and tackle a lot of the issues that people face. But I think another thing that really shapes the moral climate today, as I've insinuated previously, is young people and the actions that a lot of youth are taking to confront a lot of the issues that exist in the world. And I think this presents a very ripe, encouraging opportunity for us to stand up and confront problems. When it comes to youth culture today, activism has seeped into the culture, and now it is nearly inextricable to be an activist if you're a young person. There's an appreciation for activism and getting involved in tackling the world's problem and playing your role as a global citizen, embracing your stake in this world with a collective consciousness to help those who are marginalized and less fortunate. And I think this is quite a beautiful thing, and something that we undeniably need to embrace. In this speech of mine, the opening remarks, I'm not going to contend that the issues that exist that I've pointed to earlier, poverty, corruption, and the like, are going to evaporate overnight due to the moral state of the universe, of the world, of our species. Even though we've made considerable progress over the past century when it comes to tackling a lot of these problems, I cannot say that they're going to evaporate overnight. But I will say that with the impetus that I think the current state of the world embodies, we can really grasp onto that and use it to do a lot of good. Here, maybe where we're situated, where I'm situated here in Ireland, when things are bad in a lot of senses in terms of the healthcare system and the like, but good in a lot of senses relative to where my mother would come from, for example, let's say Nigeria. Now, there's a lot we can do to spark the consciousness of people here, to allow them to embrace the fact that when one is denied rights anywhere in the world, when one is treated to in a detrimental way, it also impacts me, regardless of where I'm situated. The institution of slavery, I think, was abolished because of the fact that this epiphany, this realization was sparked across the world when people saw themselves in the slave, they saw themselves in the people that were being oppressed. And I think Martin Luther King Jr. and the civil rights leaders of the 60s in the United States of America did a phenomenal job in allowing people to open their minds and hearts to see that they are bound with the people that are being mistreated. Those who are privileged and well off, those who are white in America, who were privileged in the legal system in that country and by the cultural and societal context within America, were able to realize that those who were being mistreated, they were bound to those people in some way, in one way or another, and then allowed them to make the necessary concessions to allow the people who are being mistreated to be able to grasp onto the rights through the fights and the toil, the activist-related fights and toil that those people had to endure and commit to. So I think appealing, before I close, I'd like to implore all of us in what we do to appeal to a higher, deeper, transcendental message of our common humanity. It's not only been embodied by the likes of Martin Luther King, but the likes of Daniel O'Connell here in Ireland, who at a time of slavery in the United States of America saw a lot of Black people in America be mistreated and spoke of how he, as an Irishman, was not willing to stand idly by and allow people to be mistreated, because anywhere in the world where oppression occurs, where people were being degradingly treated to because of immutable characteristics, he was going to stand out and speak out against it. So I think being able to appeal to this transcendental message is incredibly important. Gandhi championed it in India. And I think it's something that we need to do. And I think this definitely presents an introspective challenge for a lot of us who work on the inside to do good work for people who are vulnerable. Yes, we have to work to open the minds and hearts of people to allow them to appreciate their role, their responsibility as global citizens. But sometimes we need to look introspectively too, and to be able to see, as Martin Luther King did, that those sometimes who are not committed to the right thing, those who are not committed to changing the world, we have a responsibility to try and change those people also, to help them realize their role. Martin Luther King took it to such an extreme extent where he stated that the white supremacists, the Ku Klux Klan in America, who of course vehemently hate him as a Black man, and the people that look like him and want to wipe them off the face of the earth, they too are his brothers, but they just don't realize that they're his brothers. And one day they will. And the racism and the discrimination that they uphold, they think is a blemish with me, but actually it's a deep spiritual blemish with them. And it's their responsibility to realize this. And he played a role in converting, and many of the civil rights leaders of the day, the spiritual psyche and moral consciousness of people at that time, because he was committed to fighting for the vulnerable, uplifting the vulnerable, but also winning over those who did not see the right way. And I think we as activists, we as people who want to do good in the world, need to have a vehement commitment to those who are vulnerable, but also a commitment to those who are vulnerable and don't realize they're vulnerable. In other words, those who are committed to the wrong ideologies and the wrong things. Because a lot of people, due to the inequalities that we're speaking about, are being seeped by wrong elements, by wrong, I think, persuasions that appeal to the human condition and the human psyche and our emotional inclinations to draw us into the wrong way of thinking. It's quite appealing when you think about it. I'm reading James Baldwin's book, The Fire Next Time, and he's talking about an interaction that he had with a racist in America, a kind of militant group in America. It was a racist and a Black militant group in America. And when it came to the Black militant group that he interacted with, their whole concept of righting the wrongs that existed in America were to replace the image of the white God with the Black God. It's the Nation of Islam, if many of you might be aware of this group. It's a group Malcolm X was once a part of. And they were committed to the idea that the white man in America was the devil. This is what they believed. Why they believed it is because of the mistreatment of Black people in America for so long. And they were aggrieved, naturally, because of the mistreatment of Black people in America, as anyone would. Any oppressed group would be angry with the fact that for centuries, a particular people, because of characteristics they possess that are out of their control, are being mistreated. And they were committed to ideals which saw white people in a similar way that white people saw them throughout the history of America. James Baldwin understood where these people come from. So I think it's so important for us to understand why they mistreated, hold particular views about those who have mistreated them for so long. But he also was able to be see beyond that and commit to the transcendental ideal that the likes of Daniel O'Connell and Martin Luther King and Gandhi committed to, of unifying all of us and realizing that artificial barriers that we create to divide one another shouldn't be rejected in any way, and that we should realize the common humanity we all share, our interconnectedness, and stand up to fight for our rights all together, irregardless of who we are and where we come from. And I think when it comes to systemic racism, this spiritual change in the individual and then the access of this individual to the bigger systems can allow us to push the moral arc of our institutions and the moral arc of our systems towards the positive direction of justice.